Welcome to the Fastback Podcast, where we discuss the beauty that is the Fast and Furious franchise, among other related action films. My name is Justin. I'm here, as always, with my friend Leif. How's it going today, old man?
Oh, pretty good. And you?
Not too bad, not too bad. How was your week? Did you have anything fast or furious happen to you this week?
Oh, no, it was pretty much slow and steady.
Slow and steady.
Did no driving out of buildings.
Yes.
I wanted to avoid that.
Slow and steady like we like it. That's why we do podcasts and not try to drive out of buildings, which, of course, is referencing the film that we're going to be talking about today, Furious 7. Before we get into Furious 7, though, not too much news this week. Fate of the Furious passed $1 billion and was the number one movie 3 weeks in a row. More than likely will not be the number one movie next week with the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 coming out, but can't complain about that. Pretty good showing in its first 3 weeks.
Billion's a billion.
Billion is a billion. This week, like we said, we're going to be talking about the Furious 7. I feel we had talked about this a little bit before, but I feel like this is kind of like our real first show. We had an introduction show. We talked about Fate of the Furious. We had a little bit of a show where we talked about movies that The Rock has coming out, all of which can be found on YouTube and iTunes. But this, for me, was much different being able to watch this movie, take some notes, kind of give it a day or two to think about, as opposed to just walking out of the theater. So I think this is kind of going to be, except when we see a movie in the theater, more or less our format going forward. And I think we're going to really get our feet wet today with this. I did try to take some notes. I sat down with pen and paper while I was watching it with the intention of jotting down something every time there was a crazy line or something ridiculous happened or something amazing happened. And I probably stopped a half hour into it because it would have been 20 pages of notes. I would have been taking a note about a crazy line and missing the next crazy line. And you want to be able to kind of watch it and enjoy it.
Oh, no, you would have spent your time writing and not watching.
Exactly. I do have some notes, though. We're sans computers here, so we're doing the notes off of paper for this episode. So if you hear a little bit of rattling of papers, I apologize, but hopefully I can avoid that.
I enjoy the retro of it. You know, we're like old school reporters here.
Absolutely. So we're going to do what we have done with the last movie, and I'm going to let you take the wheel, and we're going to do kind of a mix of a summary, review, reaction. One thing we learned from Fate of the Furious, you can't really do a summary without talking about the movie, so there's going to be spoilers.
Oh, yeah.
This is just going to be two guys talking about a movie, and I'm going to let you start off by kind of just...
And really, are they actually spoilers anymore? I mean...
Not at this point. If you're listening to our podcast...
Yeah. If I've seen the movie, there's no more spoilers.
Let's put it this way. Unless you're listening to this 3 years from now, which is even further down the line, if you're listening to this podcast, our fourth podcast, with all of our but humble 7 listeners right now, you've seen this movie. So, Leif, take the wheel. I'm just going to let you kind of go down the movie, and I'll kind of interject with notes and stuff or whatnot. So it starts off...
Yeah, so it starts off, we are introduced to Jason Statham talking to his brother, I think.
Owen. Owen is the brother's name. Yeah, he's the villain of the movie before this one.
And he's in a hospital bed, and basically Jason Statham's all like, well, you know, I've always had to come and save your butt, and now I'm going to do it one last time. Yeah. And then the scene opens up, and you see, like, just complete mayhem.
Just mayhem. Well, I have a note, and it says 30 seconds in, and I already love Jason Statham in this, because he's waxing poetic about the future, the past, and he's looking at, like, the London skyline.
Yeah. As everything around... I mean, the building is on fire. You know, dead SWAT team guys everywhere.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask you about, because you've seen both of these now. And in Fate of the Furious, they, of course, try to portray him as sympathetic. He's a war hero, and he's just trying to help his brother, and he's really a good guy, and he saved a baby. But in this, and we'll get to more as we talk about the movie, he is a villain. Like, he has destroyed this hospital. He is straight up murdering SWAT team guys. He hands a guy a grenade, and pushes him and says, "This is for you."
Yeah, but the guy was
and
already...
he blows the guy up.
He was already dead.
So let me ask you this, though, in all seriousness, as serious as this can be. Did you think there was too much of a change in tone going into Fast 8 where it's like, how can this guy be on their team in the next movie? Or do you think that it was, nope, they said it's about family, that's what this franchise is about, case closed?
You know, I mean, it is about family. You know, everyone, unless the family is really, really terrible, you tend to forgive a lot of things in families.
It's true.
And if you can't forgive killing a hospital full of people, then...
To basically just visit your brother? Which I don't... Was he wanted? Could he have not just visited his brother without blowing up the... Apparently they knew he was there.
Yeah, I mean, I assume, since the heavy presence, that whatever happened that got him in the hospital in the first place...
But then he threatens the doctors.
Well, yeah, he threatens
I'll be coming back for you.
Well, you want to take care of your brother.
You do want to take care of the brother. So just great. Just from the beginning, just great. Now, this is the second one of these you've seen. Mm-hmm. It opens with that. At this point, are you just like, yup, thank you, Justin, for getting me into Fast and the Furious?
Just about. It was... I altered pretty quickly between this is just the most, like, absurd craziness ever, and this is also the best, greatest stuff ever.
Just great. All right, Leif. So we've talked about the hospital beginning. If you want to take us into Race Wars, which I believe is the next scene.
Yeah, so Race Wars, I mean, obviously, I don't know. I'm going to stop for a second and be like, explain that I felt very sympathetic to Letty in all of this as they're talking, and she's explaining that I just don't remember the 15 years of history we have.
You relate to her because you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Except I'm not going to get my memory back by the end of the movie.
No.
I just kind of... It's going to take me a month or so to get my memory back.
We first see them on driving to Race Wars, which Race Wars...
It's like an Aldi version of Bartertown,
It's an Aldi version of Bartertown. It's got a somewhat uncomfortable name. I mean, there's no marketing guy on the Fast crew. No. But we start with them. They're driving in the car, and we have one of my personal favorite things about this franchise that comes up a couple times in this movie, and that's just great Fast and the Furious philosophy, where you have Dom saying something along the lines of, they say an open road helps you think about where you're going, about where you've been. And then they get to Race Wars, and we invented it, and you have a pretty decent... You gotta have a car race somewhere in these movies.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that more or less in these later movies, they get them out of the way pretty early.
Yeah, they're knocking them out.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. You see Letty racing. Again, Letty proves that she's just as tough and just as good of a driver as anybody in these movies. And it's a very interesting... I heard someone else talking about this, and I want to bring it up because I thought it was a great point, and you're going to see this as this franchise goes on. It's very weird to see a franchise where the male and the female lead are equals, and it's the same relationship over the course of 8 movies. It's not Vin Diesel hooking up with a different chick every movie. Like, these people are, like, together for the 8 movies that they're in, so I think that's kind of
Except for the blonde chick that
well, he thought Letty was dead.
With,
he thought Letty was dead. Come on now.
Okay.
He thought she was dead. But I just think it's kind of refreshing to see this kind of, like, and we'll talk more about it later when, but you do get a sense that, like, oh, this is a couple. Like, they're in it together. Like, this is not, like... So I do enjoy that, and I think it plays into the family thing. There was one thing at Race Wars that I got to mention that reminded me of you without going into too much detail, and that's when she punches Hector, and I believe Hector is in the first one, I think, and he just got gobs of blood coming out of his mouth, and then he does like a bro... He does like a bro handshake with Vin Diesel, hug type / like, hand grasp. And I just thought about you, and I was like, oh, Leif would not be on board with somebody just giving them a bro handshake with a handful of blood.
No, that would be like, you need to wash up first.
So then
then I'll shake your hand.
Then I'll shake your hand after you sanitize. Brian drops his kid off at school. Mm-hmm. And there was one other thing that I wanted to ask you before you go back to taking the wheel with what's going to be an incredible action sequence. Did you relate having a young kid yourself and, being a father? Did you relate to any of the Brian and he's dropping the kid off at school and he's got things that he used to do, but he's a dad now and things have changed. And did you relate to any of this at all?
A little bit. I mean, when I was a kid, and I got dropped off at school, it was basically like you get pulled up into a parking lot and then you're on your own.
Oh, you were lucky if they stopped the car.
Yeah.
It was like a rolling jump out of the car if your dad was going to work.
Yeah. And but now, dropping off my son in the past and whatnot, it's like you get in this weird, fast food drive-through line of minivans, and it is completely awkward. I don't have a minivan, but I know exactly, what was going on in Brian's head at that moment in time. It's like, this is bizarre.
The kid drop-off line must breed some kind of trust, too, because he just had a complete strange woman open up the side of his car and take his kid out.
Yeah, well,
and he apparently had not been there before, so it just seemed like, well,
I assume
this lady takes my kid.
Yeah, I assume it was some teacher or whoever it is they've assigned. I mean, I would hope.
You would hope. Leif, now for one of the great sequences of this fine film. If you would again take the wheel and talk to us about what I have a note. I just have one note on this. Caps all the way across. Hobbs and Shaw are great. Hobbs is in his office. He's stamping papers with an old-fashioned stamp, which I love already. He's not entering it into a computer. He's just boom, captured. Boom, captured.
Because that's apparently what this is what our defense budget is going for.
Yeah, stamps. So if you would just wow us all with this sequence.
Well, yeah. Someone was captured, obviously, and he's finishing up the paperwork in the middle of the night because that's when everyone finishes up paperwork.
Yeah, he's dedicated.
And then the woman who is the future, maybe she already had the kid?
That's the thing about the timeline, because you got to think, she ain't, this is not funny by any means or anything to poke fun of, but a baby's not surviving a 4-story fall out of a window if you're pregnant. No. You wouldn't think. So yeah, that's what I was saying when we talked about fate. I do not understand the timeline of this. Maybe she would have had the kid already.
Had the kid.
She's not pregnant.
No, and then she basically must have had the kid, fallen out of the window, and then immediately got kidnapped by Cypher.
Possibly.
And
mind you, anybody listening, and again, if you're listening to this, this is the most least absurd part of this is the timeline with the kid. This is stuff that, at this time, for all intents and purposes, she doesn't have a kid. They came up with that when they were writing 8.
Yeah.
So she forgets something. He goes down to the car. He comes back up.
Well, he hands her this letter he wrote, being like, this is a recommendation. I meant every word. So we don't know what she's getting recommended for, but whatever. Anyway, so he gets back up to there, and there's some dude on his computer just typing away. And
you know what? I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just thought of this, and it cracked me up a bit. This means that when she was brutally murdered in 8, she had dreams and a career path that was clearly going well. There was a job out there that she wanted that a former supervisor recommended her for.
Yeah.
That she probably got. She had a kid.
Everything was great until
everything was going pretty good for her. Cypher.
The Vin Diesel bunch.
Yeah, the Vin Diesel bunch.
She just wasn't enough of family, I guess.
So I apologize. So he goes upstairs and Shaw's on his computer.
So he's typing away, and immediately we get Hobbs doing a dig on IT people.
Yeah.
You're not the IT guy.
You just learned to dance with the devil, boy.
I mean, I guess that's not really a dig on IT people. I'm just sensitive. But Hobbs is like...
The best thing is, though, is that, and they're not going to see me motion this, but Hobbs is like, you learned to dance with the devil, boy. And then Shaw just pulls one of these. He doesn't even look away from the screen. He just puts it one moment. I'll be with you in a second.
Up his hand, oh, wait. I'm still
stealing files off your computer.
Just give me a second. We'll do this in a minute.
Which is great.
So he does his thing, and then he gets up, and, for brevity, fight ensues.
Good fight.
And this is...
Woman comes back upstairs.
Yep. And
because she heard a scuffle from her car from 50 stories down? Or at this point, was there gunfire that she maybe would have seen?
I didn't think there was gunfire.
She comes back.
Yeah. Maybe she just forgot something. Anyway, yeah, so she gets involved in this mess, and then, what's his name? I keep forgetting. Jason Statham's guy.
Deckard.
He throws some kind of weird disc bomb out that everyone recognizes immediately as a disc bomb.
Yeah, he throws a disc bomb and then hides under a folding table.
Yeah,
because which armors you against disc bombs.
Because
in this universe.
Well, card tables are superior armor.
Which I think, now that I think of it, I think there was something in Fate of the Furious where someone just flipped over a table and hid behind it when there was a bomb as well.
That's what I was thinking during the movie. I was like, that room right there must have bombed so many times. Yeah. That's like the least secure building in the universe.
So the bomb goes off.
Yeah. Rock and Elena,
yeah.
They get blasted out of, I don't know how many stories.
Oh, it's
4 or 5?
It's up there. I mean, they're not on a second floor.
I mean, fortunately, they land on an SUV because that makes all the difference, apparently.
Well, fortunately, they land on an SUV, which he totals with his body, which I think you would.
Oh,
and fortunately, he lands first, and not the other way around. He's able to turn his body midair and then embrace her, so he takes the brunt of the fall.
And being made out of solid rock, he survives.
But I still think she has terrible injuries. Because I think it's like that theory of, like we learned about in Driver's Ed, where when you're in a car accident, there's 3 impacts. Your car hitting, you hitting the steering wheel, or hopefully just an airbag. But then also your organs hitting the inside of, like, your frame.
Yeah, you don't want your brain jostled around.
No, you would think she would still be messed up. So there was one thing that when we had talked about this briefly before we started that you loved, and that was they cut to an image on the computer screen that survived the explosion of
Han.
Of Han.
Because apparently through all of this, the computer was still working, and it delivered its last final message.
Which is to set up the fact that after this, he goes to Tokyo and blows up Han, which we see in Tokyo Drift. So I think that's why they wanted a little bit more of that connective tissue. Did you notice Han's last name, though, on the screen? And I only know this from reading about it.
I did not.
It's Han Solo.
Yes. That...
It was just...
I'm going to have to go back and pause that scene.
Makes me love it even more. So, they, like you explained... They fall, how many ever stories. I love this. This is one of my favorite parts of the movie. They total the car, and it shows the next scene, and you just see The Rock sitting upright in bed, just a cast on his arm.
Well, yeah, that's all. He just broke his arm, apparently.
Nothing else. Just a cast on the arm.
And I'm going to jump ahead for a minute because...
You can't even talk about it yet. We have to wait till we get there. Okay. I know exactly what you're saying, and it's my favorite moment of the entire movie.
Okay.
And I don't want to save the best for last. No offense. But, yeah. Just next, he's upright. He's eating pudding or something. He's got a cast on his arm. And he's fine. But before we jump ahead to that... We have the scene where Mia is telling, Vin Diesel that she has another baby on the way. All right, this is setting up how they had to write out Paul Walker. You see he's getting ready. He's getting the kid ready for school.
Yeah. There's a suspicious package.
Yeah, there's a package, and he's like, oh, Tokyo. Han must be trying to get me into Tokyo cars or something like that. Because establishing at this point, Han is in Tokyo, and we know that Shaw is on his way to kill Han, so-and-so. And they have a little nice exchange about how, and the only reason I bring this up, it's kind of not a forgettable scene, but not a big impact. I just thought it was funny that he tells his sister, like, very heartfelt that, like, you have to tell him. It's like, yeah, he's going to figure it out pretty quick. Like, this is not like... I mean, you should probably tell him that you're pregnant, but it's not something that you're going to keep from him for a very long period of time.
It's not like, like all of a sudden 3 years down the road, it's just like, oh.
But who's this kid?
Is that a friend's kid we're just watching?
No, this is strange.
Where were you that one day?
And then explosion. Mm-hmm. And again, this is what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to beat a dead horse by this. They're movies. But again, I was wondering about you watching this, because now this man has he killed Han. He blew up your house. He almost killed you and your sister and your best friend and your nephew. And next movie, he's eating barbecue with you. It's a little far-fetched to me. They're going to really have to push it in the next movie to be like...
and I was going to talk about this, too, going down the line, but, like, he seemed to get more comical and lovable as the movie went on.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
So, like, by the end of it, you understand that this is just one of these things, and you have to let it go.
There has to be some production reason for that, too, where they look at this guy and go, he's just too great. Like, people are going to love this character, so we're going to have to find a way to keep him around. So we see him blow up the house, and then it cuts to that hospital scene we were talking about. I just have a note that says there's a great, great back-and-forth tough guy scene where it's because they both want to be the toughest guy in the movie. Between that hospital bed, they're just exchanging great tough guy talk.
Oh, yeah.
You gonna find this guy? Yeah. When you find him, don't miss. I never miss. And it's just like, you got to wonder if they both have something in their contract where it's like, he's got too much tough guy talk in this scene. I'm going to need some tough guy talk too. And they're like, all right, guys, you're both going to have tough guy talk. You can't both have they can't both have the last punchline.
Yeah,
but they were both trying to have the last punchline.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I never miss. Well, make sure you don't. Okay, I don't. And it's like...
And I would love to see, like, how much they're allowed to just, like, riff their one-lines, or if it's, like... Because if someone is having to strip out every tough guy thing...
But they're great together.
Yeah.
That's why I wish they would just put their differences aside. You saw how much... After seeing this, do you see what was missing now from Fate of the Furious, where those guys could never be in a scene together?
Oh, yeah.
They're great together.
Yeah, it would have been a lot different.
They have great chemistry.
But
we see the Tokyo Drift guy. We see Han. I'm going to bring back Han. So he's just off to Tokyo. And I thought it was a little amusing that they show footage from Tokyo Drift and then cut to the next scene where the hillbilly kid is clearly aged 12 years. Like, as they're talking, like, it was great. But they have the same T-shirt, but it's not doing it. He's a much older man.
Well, drift racing has aged him quickly.
Drift racing has aged him. And then we cut to one of my favorite scenes, and I'm going to take the wheel on this one because this is one of the things that I love the most. We cut to Han's funeral. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we see Vin Diesel standing at Han's coffin and monologuing. And he says something like, I don't have any notes on exactly what he says, but it's like, he's like, they took you from me, and now I'll take their life from them. You were my friend, and now you're gone. And he's monologuing, and you're like, all right, this is typical action hero at the grave of a dead friend.
Yeah.
He's going to get revenge. He's talking to the grave. And you think that's what it is. Okay. And then they cut to a wide shot, and you see, oh no, there's people in the background. There's people in the background dressed up. And so then you're thinking, okay, maybe this is part of the service. Everybody's going to have a chance to come up and say a little piece and kind of say a prayer, or kind of, speak and have a little private moment with Han there. Mm-hmm. And you think, okay, maybe that's what's happening. Oh, no. I don't know if you noticed this, but when he turns to walk away, you see the priest or reverend or whatever in the background. And he's got a book open, and he's speaking, which means that Vin Diesel's character of Dominic Toretto is so self-centered that he took it upon himself as the funeral service was happening to walk up in front of everybody and have his own personal monologue with Han. And I just thought that was incredible. He's like, I have my own things to say. Maybe just wait until
I'm going to let you finish.
The priest is done. So from there, we have and I'm going to let you jump back into it. Shaw is creeping at the funeral. Shaw is everywhere in this movie. Which, the absurdity of the gods, I'm going to give you the God's eyes so you can find Shaw. Oh, he's here already. He's showing up everywhere you're going.
He's already actively trying to kill us.
He's already trying to kill you. You don't need the God's eye. But we see Shaw's creeping at the funeral, and we see Vin Diesel jumps in the car, and boom, he's chasing him. And that gets us to their first fight scene, if you want to go into that a little bit. And I'll jog your memory.
Yeah.
It's two cars going 90 miles per hour in a parking garage, slamming into each other in a head-on collision, and both men get out of the car as if nothing has happened.
Well, that's what usually happens when you get in a head-on collision with an enemy.
It's brutal. Their cars are destroyed, and then they're about to get into a fight, and Vin Diesel seems to think that this is going to be like a fist fight, and Jason Statham is like, no, I have a gun. And Vin Diesel is disgusted by this. This is so against his code of honor.
This is not how you fight.
This is not how you fight on the streets. The streets always win, he says later. And Jason Statham is like, no, I'm here to kill you because you paralyzed my brother.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Nobody shows up.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
Did you like Kurt Russell in this?
I did.
Kurt Russell's great.
Yeah. He's making a comeback.
He's great. He's got Coronas. They drink Coronas.
Well, yeah, he tries to get him to do the whole Belgian beer thing.
Yeah, did you like that?
It was pretty funny.
It's a little bit of character stuff.
Yeah, I enjoyed later the reference back to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like when he's, like, shot. And
he's like halfway dead, and he's like, I need to tell you something. You should try that Belgian beer.
It's a callback. And at that point, you don't know if he's going to come back, but he, apparently he does. He's in Fast 8. So you enjoyed Kurt Russell, and he pulls the team together.
Yeah. And I do love that because, Vin Diesel is explaining that he's going to do it.
Yes.
By himself.
Yeah.
He doesn't want his team is just racers.
Well, he says that later, after the...
Oh, yeah.
He says that later. After they do the whole parachute...
No, I thought he said, they're racers, they're not people. And he's like, well, I got them here. And then they, get their stuff ready
to do that? Because I think he says that they're racers, they're not killers later when he's sending them to finally kill Shaw. Oh. And then Brian comes out and he's like, I knew you would say that. Because remember, he's like, we're leaving at 0700. And then Kurt Russell's like, where are you going, Dom? And he's like, I told him I lied about when we're leaving. But you might be right. I do think when Mr. Nobody's talking to him, he's like, I need my team. And then he's like, they're already here.
Yeah.
And he shows him, pulling in, and you see, the team coming, which, dude, I love this group of characters together. I love this team when it is put together, which is what I think was kind of missing, again, from 8. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. I have a big point about that.
Okay.
That I didn't even think of 8 until I watched 7 again. But they plan it, and Roman is great. He's doing his Roman thing. So take us through, if you don't have anything else on Mr. Nobody, an incredible sequence with cars parachuting out of an airplane.
Okay, yeah, so, and I kind of read a little bit after the movie.
Okay.
About how the guy who was handling all of the stunts effects and stuff,
all right,
he wanted to make the scene look realistic.
Okay.
And then they ended up having cars on green screens. But the big thing for me is, and now this is just me, if I'm running special ops...
Yes.
Maybe don't always rely on cars all the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll accept this car reality.
Because there has to be something to do with cars.
Yeah.
See, I had read that they actually dropped a couple cars out of a parachute, out of the sky, and had parachuters, skydivers.
It was kind of a both.
Okay. But obviously, when they're in the car, that's green screen.
Yeah, well, they're not.
Yeah, they're not being parachuted out. I think I read somewhere that 80% of the cars, they actually were able to have land on 4 wheels, and so that obviously 20% crashed. Yeah. But you have Roman being Roman.
Yeah, Roman, he doesn't want to do it, and
just a great sequence with those, and then them landing and immediately driving.
Actually, so he didn't want to do it.
Yes,
but apparently Ludacris knew that he wouldn't do it. So he attached a special parachute
that pulls him out of the plane
on top of the other parachute,
but is not his parachute for landing.
Yeah.
And I was also confused because they're telling him, there's nothing to it. It'll automatically deploy at so many feet. But then they're clearly watching a gauge.
They're watching
doing the parachutes themselves.
And they're like, okay, this is going to be close.
Yeah.
And
so it was confusing. I think there was like some maybe ADR or something in there to have those lines about it. But yeah.
Regardless, it
was great.
They managed to mostly land on the road, except for Roman, who... He got stuck in a tree or something.
Yeah, he gets stuck in a tree.
Which
was great. I mean, the whole thing, them landing and seeing those cars parachute and then land on the ground and cut the chute and immediately start driving. It was great.
It was a very impressive scene. And then
this is like the prime action scene of the movie, because then we get into a thing where the bad guys start chasing them.
Yeah. And they engage with the command center truck.
And it should go without, we should mention that the whole point of this excursion is that they're going to save a mysterious hacker named Ramsey, who's in this prison bus unit command center thing.
Yeah.
That she has the God's Eye, and these bad guys are going to get the God's Eye. Mr. Nobody wants the God's Eye because it's big-time tech that the government can use.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like we mentioned before, their part in it and what they get out of the game is that he's going to then let them use the God's Eye to find Shaw, who we mentioned is showing up at every turn anyway and really doesn't need to be found.
They could have just hung out at a Burger King.
They could have hung out at a Burger King parking lot and Shaw would have been there. So just, not to trivialize it, but it's hard. It's great scene with them shooting at each other.
I mean, it's prime action.
And they got her, and they're throwing her off the bus, and they're fighting people on the bus.
The scene where Brian basically knocks his windshield out.
Yes.
Gets on the hood, and then jumps into the truck command center thing.
Just great, and has a fight.
And this is, I'm going to interrupt here because this is interesting. This weird dynamic between the evil guy and Brian, the one head.
Are you talking about the guy from Gladiator, or are you talking about the Asian guy that he fights a couple times? Okay,
yeah,
all right.
All of a sudden, there seemed to be more to this than just they discovered each other.
Yeah, I don't think he's in the franchise before.
But so they're fighting, and stuff happens. They save Ramsey. Brian is still in this truck.
Yeah, he's in the weird bus command center thing.
It's him and the other guy, and they're fighting, and then the truck's going over the ledge.
Yes.
And
tips.
Yeah, well, the one bad guy, before he jumps out, he traps him, Brian, and it's
traps him in
and he does the too slow.
Yeah, and he rolls off of it. Yeah. Which, there's a callback to that.
Which comes back to bite him, but that's classic.
And then we get to another just incredible stunt set piece. Mm-hmm. If you want to explain what the character of Brian does on this bus, that's wackadoo amazing.
And I have a hard time even remembering everything because it just was insane.
Oh, it's nonstop.
He gets out.
The bus is teetering off the cliff.
He goes to the other side.
Yeah, because he can't get out the back because the cage is locked. So he goes to the front and kicks out the windshield. And somersaults himself up onto the top of it. Which is terrifying.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do.
You gotta do what you gotta do. And then, of course, like we've seen in many movies, it's starting to tip.
Starting to game over here soon.
So...
And then I'm blanking. He just
runs up the bus as it's falling.
Yes. Wait, did he jump and then get into a car? A car drove by.
And this is incredible. The bus is tipping.
Yeah.
He's running as the bus is tipping, all right? He gets to the end, and he jumps off the very edge. And by that time, the bus has already fallen off, okay? Now, he is not going to make it. He is going to miss it by inches, okay? Even by being able to grab on with his hands, he's not going to be able to grab onto the ledge. He's a dead man.
Yeah.
If it isn't for Letty
there we go,
being able to drift her car over the edge of the cliff for him to grab the back bumper.
That's what
and that's
what I remember. That's like, this is the thing. The whole thing was just so crazy.
Oh, yeah.
The running up the bus didn't even register for me because it's like, okay, well, you have a car drifting and jumping and
he grabs onto it. Perfect timing, as we see in these movies time and time again. Perfect timing. He rolls off, gets up and just says, "Hey, thank you." And she's like, "Are you coming?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'll be right." Dusting himself off as if me and you were walking out of your front door and you had to stop and tie your shoe. Just with the same nonchalant attitude of, "Hey, thanks."
Well,
and then he just gets in the car and they're off.
You do this every day.
Which brings us to another, and this is cut back and forth between, like, Shaw at this point is chasing Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
And they're passing Ramsey back and forth through different cars. And this brings me to another, again, you're right. It was like boom, boom, boom. Then you have a sequence where Dom is cornered.
Yeah.
His back is to a cliff. The back of his car is to a cliff, literally. There's like
and all the
a
cars are
semicircle
around
of bad guys. And then, this is odd to me, he kicks up a bunch of dust.
Yeah.
He starts doing, like, what do you call it, like a burnout?
Yeah, donuts.
Yeah, he starts doing donuts, thank you. He starts doing donuts, and he's kicking up dust. And as the first time I watched it, I'm like, and, it's also through this, it's cutting back to Kurt Russell, and he's giving one-liner type, like, oh, this is what, they're the best, and this is what, I wasn't expecting that, and let's see what happens next, to some, like, concerned, like, minion. And Dom is kicking up dust by doing donuts, and you think, okay, he's creating a cover.
Yeah.
He's going to do something, because, like, and they're like, we can't see him, and...
Well, that's the thing, he's like, he's not going to be
No,
able to
he's not creating a cover. He just lets the dust settle, and then you see what he's going to do. And so I don't know why he waited for... The dust was a weird thing to me, but whatever.
Maybe a distraction?
Maybe a distraction, but he's not distracting him because then the dust settles and he's still just sitting there. But he tells the girl to put on a helmet, which she does. And the man drives off of a cliff. And I have here written in notes, not a hill. He drives off the side of a mountain.
Yeah, that was a pretty hefty cliff there.
And it's just, they're crashing through trees, and they're hitting rocks, and they're tumbling. And as always, they get out, they're fine.
Yeah, well, this is the car also, though, that just parachuted out of a plane.
Parachutes out of a plane.
So it was built to last.
Just amazing. But that whole thing, you're right. From the point they parachute out of the plane to a point when they all recoup down to make sure Dom is okay, and they meet Ramsey, just... What would you say? Was that 20 to 25 minutes of just nonstop and just insanity?
Yeah, there was that. That's the thing. And I kept on thinking the whole time, and just Roman's up in a tree someplace.
And he pops up somewhere.
Yeah, he's back. Because they're back.
Doesn't he pop up and stop Shaw? And I could not tell you what happens to Shaw at this point. Did they knock him down a cliff or something, and then he's just out of the game temporarily? Because even now, I can't remember where Shaw went after the little chase.
Yeah, he went down a cliff. And I don't remember what happened.
He shaws it up somewhere.
Next scene, they're all on like a dock.
Yeah, and they're talking, and they're having their introductions to Ramsey. And she's like, "You're the leader. You're the." And he's like, "I'm the number 2."
She's a brilliant hacker, so she also is able to like analyze people.
So we see that, okay, and then they talk to her. They're gonna get the God's Eye. She gave the God's Eye to a friend. Yeah. Who is in the Middle East? What city is it? Is it Dubai?
Yeah, I think it's Dubai.
They go to Dubai, and the friend is like, she's like, "What happened to that thing I gave you for safekeeping?" And the guy's like, "Oh, I sold that." It's like, okay, well, what do you mean? And they're fine with it. She's just like, "Oh, like, I don't know the guy's name, but it would say his name was Ricky." She's like, "Oh, Ricky, what do you mean you sold it?"
Why'd you do that?
Well, it's in a car,
and
so it's safe, but the problem is it's too safe. So they get decked out. They got to go to a party. And which leads us almost immediately. They know what works.
Yeah.
You're back into an action sequence.
You're back into action.
You're back into Taj hacking. You're back into Roman acting like a goofball.
Yeah. You have basically a minute to like catch your breath, and then you're back.
Everybody's doing what they do well in this. So they're at this party, which leads us to, and I'm going to let you take the wheel on this as always, as we do for these big set pieces. The only thing that I have to mention is they go to this car. It's like this $200 million ridiculous spaceship-looking car that there's only 7 of them in the world. They have to do a little bit of car talk, which I'm not a car guy, but I appreciate they still try to do some car talk here and there in these movies for the people who really are watching it because they love the cars. And I think it's good that they held on to it. There's more and more and more as you go back, but now it's just, they do it a little bit. Mm-hmm. Brian has to get under the car, okay? And I'll let you take over after this. But Vin Diesel, the man lifts a car.
He lifts the car up, yeah.
He lifts the car up. And not just like, oh man, you got to get your arm under there. I can maybe lift it a little bit. He lifts it, and it's just, it's off the ground.
Yeah, he's basically just about to do
curling.
Curling, yeah.
Yeah, he's curling the front of this car. And another great, and this is why I miss Paul Walker, because their chemistry is incredible. Because there's a split second, a little moment, where Brian's got the flashlight in his mouth, and he's about to get under, and then he comes back out, and he's like, you got this, right? And Vin Diesel's like, hurry up. And just, dude, those two characters,
yeah,
they're great together.
I saw the chemistry. It was pretty nice.
So for some reason, they decide that, and I don't remember why, Roman is causing a big distraction doing his Roman thing. And I don't mind Roman. I can imagine that when you're watching these movies, you or anybody, you love him or you hate him. I can see where if you don't like it, how it would get annoying quick. He's doing his thing. They're hacking. The two hackers are hacking. Like, we need to get the cameras off or whatever. Letty gets in a fight with, like, some other woman who's a bodyguard type thing, and she's doing her Letty fight thing. Can you remind me, why do they have to jump the car out of the building? Is it because they're caught? They're caught, right?
Yeah, the jig was up.
Okay, the jig was up.
And
they still haven't gotten the thing yet.
Yeah.
They still need time
they
to
needed
get the thing.
to get that. So, and the dates were closing again.
Okay.
Like the hacking wasn't working.
Which
leads
all
us
of
the security dates were going. So, so next thing you know, they're driving this $5 billion car around
through the party.
The 30th story of whatever building in
whatever
Dubai.
Penthouse this is in this luxury skyscraper.
And it's apparently taking no damage.
No.
Because I imagine if I drove my car through a Target right now, it would basically get 20 feet and then be disabled.
Oh, yeah, you'd be done.
But this car is not only surviving, it's thriving in this condition, which may be why there's only 7. Maybe they just built these cars for this.
It's possible.
But the only way to escape is clearly by driving through a window.
You gotta drive through the window. And he means to drive through the window.
Yeah, it was
the
intentional.
Because he's like, well, what are you doing? And you see him, he's grimacing and he's getting ready.
He's revving and
drives through the window.
Uh-huh. And
CGI looked pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that shiny CGI look, but seeing that car go through one skyscraper, and then obviously it's going to start to drop.
Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I kind of knew the shtick here before the movie, so I'm like, okay, it's going into the next building. And gets into the next building. And then, for some reason, and I don't understand this, the brakes don't work in this car.
Yeah, they messed up the brakes somehow. I don't know if they messed them up when they were monkeying around with it or whatnot, but the point is the brakes don't work.
Brakes don't work.
And the second building is a building that looked like it was, at least that floor, seemed to be under construction. So there's nobody there. So they're just going through that one. And he's still monkeying around under the dash trying to get this thing.
So I'm thinking, okay, well, this is where it's going to end. They'll figure out how to stop the car, and it'll be, like, close. But no. They did it once.
Oh, no. Yeah,
so you might as well do it again.
Yes.
So they just went sailing right out the second building.
Is there an establishing shot before they go up to those buildings that there's 3 buildings? Do you know there's 3 buildings as you're watching this sequence? I think there is.
I think, yeah.
Okay, all right. Point is, he crashes out of the second building.
And you're into the third building now,
which is heavily populated.
Yeah, there's a lot of people probably died.
There's like a party going on in that thing. There's a man looking, and it's kind of a cool shot because he's looking out the window talking on the phone, and you see the reflection of the car coming.
And he's just like,
oh, and that guy's dead. There's many people dead in that party as a car crashes through, and they've run out of buildings.
Yeah, and
They just get the thing and roll out.
Yeah. I'm trying to find words at this point. It's just,
and I think it's a typical thing where they get the thing and roll out, and then there's that thing where they kind of tumble almost to the end, and then they're like hanging out a little bit, and they look down and see the car crash.
Yep, and they're doing the reflective light.
Yeah.
Which
anytime I see characters in movies, and I've seen this in many movies, where they're like there's a broken open window, and they almost fall out. And then they're just kind of sitting like haphazardly in it. Dude, maybe it's because I'm terrified of heights. But what are you doing just sitting with your legs hanging? You're not sitting on a park bench.
Oh, yeah.
You're 90 stories up in the air looking at a straight drop. So we see the car explode.
After just killing a bunch of people.
They have the God's eye.
Mm-hmm.
The team regroups. I don't even know what the next scene is. I think the next scene, they're just back in L.A. They go to the parking garage.
Yeah, they're in that garage.
Yeah, and Mr. Nobody comes back, and he's like, low profile, huh? And you're not going to have something like this in the movie, but you can't help but look and be like, no repercussions. Nobody was waiting on the ground floor. They had to... I would have loved to see the scene where they have to just go to an elevator and get in an elevator, and they're sitting there going down 40 stories. There's no police. No. There's nobody waiting.
They just walk out.
And it's not that, like, they crashed out of the first building and the car dropped and they're like, let's get out of here. You would think that whatever those commandos are in the first building, they're maybe to the third building by that point. I mean, this happened quick, but come on. I'm
pretty sure there would have been at least a radio call.
There would have been a radio call to somebody.
But yeah, they're back there, and then they realize... I think this is when they realize that they're going to be hunted until they're dead.
This realizes when they're going to be hunted, and Dom says, if we're going to find this guy, we're going to find him on our home streets.
So they decide to go back home and wreck their town, basically.
They go back home, and we get to a point where, the point we talked about earlier, where they use the God's Eye to find Shaw. And they're going to go in after him in the morning, but Dom says, no, I'm going tonight. And then Brian says, I'm going to go, and Mr. Nobody's like, well, I got to have some guys go with you. And this is my favorite line of the whole movie. They go to a warehouse or some kind of abandoned building, and there's Shaw, and he's like sitting at a table eating a steak. Okay? And him and Vin Diesel have tough guy talk, and Vin Diesel said something along the lines, and this is my favorite line of the whole movie, where he says something along the lines of about family, and then Shaw says, the guy's like, I have, Okay, I apologize, everyone. Vin Diesel says, I don't have friends, I have family. And then Shaw goes, yeah, well, I got a lot of friends. Yeah. And immediately a bunch of commandos break in. Yeah. And I thought it was so great, because it's so true to, like, what this whole thing is about, where he's like, I got my family. And it's like, okay, well, you brought your best friend. I actually brought, like, some commando guys. Yeah. So we're going to start tearing it up. Another fight pursues.
Yeah. And Mr. Nobody just throws down.
He throws down, but this is when he gets shot.
Yeah.
And this is when they have to hightail it out. Again, I should have paid closer attention to, like, where's Shaw. But I guess Shaw gets away again?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He gets away again. A bunch of commandos get killed. None of our guys get hurt except for Mr. Nobody, who I guess now is one of our guys. And they drop him off, like, at a place where helicopters come in.
Yeah, the helicopters.
And then you have a scene, which I thought was actually touching, where you have a scene where Brian is talking to Mia on the phone. He's touching base with her about what's going on. And it was just, to me, he is obviously alive when he filmed this. She filmed her half of it after he passed away. So there's certain stuff you know about that adds a certain layer to this movie as you're watching it, where there are moments in this movie where these actors are saying goodbye to their friend.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, it's touching. Like when she's doing that scene, when she's talking to him on her end on the phone, she's like, no, don't say goodbye. And she's like, don't do that. That's like goodbye. Don't say I love you. Say something else. And he's like, give our son a kiss for me. And they're talking about a sandwich, which harkens back to the first movie, which is maybe the greatest dialogue in the history of movies, about two people talking about a sandwich. And again, you look at these cheeseball movies with a little bit slightly cheesy acting, but again, these people have been in these movies together for 17 years.
Oh, yeah.
Good chemistry between her and him.
Yeah.
Like, you feel, again, like it's a couple. like who don't want to say goodbye to each other. And she's like, no, don't say goodbye. And then they hang up the phone and they both say, I love you. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but there were a number of touching scenes in this movie where it's like, oh, that's not just, they're not talking about Brian there. That's that actor saying goodbye to Paul Walker, who they've worked with for 17 years. And that just had to be a tough thing. So they're going to get Shaw now.
Yeah.
And we get to the final, they have a moment where they're all standing on like the side of the freeway looking at the city, talking about, we're going to do it. And, Roman's doing his Roman thing. I didn't sign up to die. I mean, you've signed up for all of it, Roman. And we go to the big city action sequence that they got to play hot potato with Ramsey because
the God's Eye's tracking her.
Yes, the God's Eye's tracking her. Oh, so Shaw must have got the God's Eye back.
Yes, but I forget how.
The scene when he's eating the steak, I think they get the God's Eye there. Why are they carrying it with them to get Shaw? Yeah, that's what happens. Sorry, everybody. We're remembering this movie as we're watching it, which is great. But yeah, they get the God's Eye because they get kind of outnumbered by all Shaw's commandos.
Yeah.
And that's where they get the God's Eye because I guess you would bring the thing that you just spent a week getting right back to the hands of the enemy that you're just going to take out. And so they're...
Yeah, I remember that now because I thought to myself, this is hubris.
Yes.
This is why this is going to fail.
Yes.
Okay.
So they have to pass Ramsey back and forth because they're tracking them, and she has to hack into the God's Eye again. And they are tracking, the bad guys are tracking all of them, so they have to make sure that she is not in a car that gets exploded by a missile. So they're doing amazing stuff where they're like drifting, and they pass by each other for 1 second, and they pass her through 2 windows, which is great.
They managed to get her through there without slicing her in half.
So crap is going down,
yeah.
And we're going to get to now the part where, the best part of the whole movie. Crap is going down, people are shooting missiles, pandemonium on the streets, cars are exploding, they're taking out guys in cars.
Yep.
And we cut to The Rock in his hospital bed.
He's sitting there watching TV.
Breaking news. Explosion in downtown L.A.
Yeah.
He looks out to the window. He sees just a fireball going through the air. And if you don't mind, I'm going to take this one. The man stands up, all right? Now, mind you, we've talked about the extent or not the extent of his injuries from falling from a 15-story building and totaling an SUV with his body.
He's injured enough to have spent a decent amount of time in the hospital.
He's a decent amount of time in the hospital. He wakes up, or whatever. He looks out the window. He sees that he's needed, okay? He says, Daddy's got to go to work. Yeah. Immediately decides that his arm is no longer broken, which the cast that his arm was in would indicate that his arm was terribly broken. It's like a full arm cast that's like attached to his hip type thing.
There was extensive,
and up on his shoulder.
Extensive damage to
This isn't like the cast that a kid would get in school when he would sprain his arm and everybody would sign it. There's damage to his arm. He decides, no, my arm's not broken anymore, and flexes to break his cast off. Now, every podcast you've ever heard, every review you've ever listened to about this movie has mentioned this. This is nothing original because it's so ridiculous. The man flexes his cast off.
Yeah, by sheer will of muscle.
Stretches his arm a little bit, does one of these, shoulder things, does a thing with his neck, and then next scene is him out of, like a bat out of hell driving an ambulance.
I do want to interrupt here because it does show him get suited up.
Oh, yeah, he takes some medicine.
Well, that's the thing. He pops like some Vitadin.
Yeah.
Which...
You're right. He gets suited up.
And he has all of his stuff apparently in the hospital with him.
Yeah, he must have his stuff in the hospital with him.
Yeah, he just suited up.
Because there's a slight scene that we forgot about. That's not too important, where before they go on a mission... Before they go on this mission, it shows them all suiting up. Dom's pulling the tarp off his car. Brian's ripping the FBI patch off of his bulletproof vest, which I loved. And so Daddy's got to go to work. Yeah. And then next scene, he is driving like a bat out of hell in an ambulance. Now, we shouldn't mention that while all this is going on, Brian is having a sequence. I don't know what Brian is doing, to be honest with you. I think it's because at this point Paul Walker had passed away, so they had to use body doubles, so he couldn't really be involved. Why is he in that building? After the movie was over and I was doing these notes, I couldn't remember 5 minutes later why he was in that building.
I don't know.
All I know is he fights Dude.
Yeah, he fights that dude again, who... I don't understand why he came back.
Yeah, I don't know why he's there. I don't know why Brian is there.
Brian.
Is Brian turning off something on a tower or something like that?
Maybe there's some... Yeah, maybe there's...
Brian is separated from the rest of the crew for production reasons that we all know. Mm-hmm. And that I'll get into with my Fact of the Furious, because there's a few interesting notes on that. But he gets into, again, another pretty amazing fight with that guy.
Oh, yeah. It's yeah.
And then...
He gets the cable is attached to the dude.
Yeah, he attaches his cable to a dude.
Knocks the big weight down the elevator shaft.
Yeah, and the guy...
And he's like, too slow.
Yeah, it ties it back. And as the guy falls to his death, he's a little one-liner. And then he leaves that place. Again, I can't stress enough, I have no idea what he was doing in that place. And we're cutting back and forth between they're being chased, they're still trying to shoot missiles at them, they have the God's Eye, they don't have the God's Eye.
And by now, the bad guys have launched a drone, Predator drone.
A Predator drone, because at some point, Vin Diesel and Jason Statham have ended up on top of a parking garage.
Yeah, they're at the parking garage.
Statham has, of course, interjected himself into this somewhere.
Yeah, they're doing their own thing.
They're doing their own thing. They're having a fight, and we're going to get to that in a second. But Hobbs is driving an ambulance. We get to the point where finally... Letty has Ramsey.
Yeah.
She's the last domino. The other cars have been destroyed, and they shoot a heat-seeking missile at Letty's car. And you're like, oh boy, they're in trouble. Okay. And that's when we see Hobbs.
No, it was not. It was the drone was going towards.
The drone was going after Letty? I thought the drone was going up after Vin Diesel.
No.
Oh no, it is a drone.
Yeah. Because the drone's following her everywhere.
The drone is following her.
And then was about to,
So they're in danger? Because the drone has a gun on it.
Yeah.
For some reason.
It has guns, and it's a Predator drone.
Okay, that's right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, again, in the Fast and Furious way of perfect timing, they're done for.
Yeah,
nope.
Game over.
Hobbs drives an ambulance off of a overpass, and in perfect timing, crashes into the drone.
Into the drone.
And he lands, again, would kill you. He lands, 75, 100 feet.
Does enough damage to destroy the drone.
Destroys the drone, destroys the ambulance, gets out of the ambulance just fine. And then, a great little thing where Ramsey's like, who's that? And Letty's like, that's Hobbs.
Yeah.
And you have the same tone as her, because you're like, damn right, that's Hobbs. You love every minute of it as you're watching it.
And in Rambo fashion... He's pulling the machine gun off of the drone.
What is it called? Like a Gatling gun or whatever?
Yeah,
he rips it up like a minigun. Like the type of gun 10 times as big as what Jesse Ventura... Remember in Predator when Jesse Ventura just shoots a bunch of trees? It's one of those, but it's 20 times bigger, and he just rips it off. And I made a note of this, and I'm not going to try to read through all this stuff to find it because I remember it. The footage of Hobbs... walking down the middle of a destroyed street. The man is huge.
Yeah, he's the Rock.
And he's just holding this huge gun with both hands, just shooting up in the air at helicopters. And I looked at that, and I'm like, oh, this is just great. So then
That's prime.
We cut to the payoff. Mm-hmm. And this is finally, we're going to have the showdown.
Yeah.
And we have Vin Diesel, and we have Jason Statham, and they're on top of a parking garage, and they're bantering back and forth. And this time, Vin Diesel has a gun. And he's like, so you think it's going to be a street fight this time? It is. He throws the gun away. Both men immediately start ripping pieces off their car. Now, we forgot to mention there's another head-on collision, which was very cool, and I want to mention it. They collide, and Dom's car goes up on top of Jason Statham's car, and I thought it was a nice little secondary production point where then he takes the shotgun and starts shooting through the floor, so it's coming through the ceiling of Jason Statham's car. That's just a sweet little idea.
But, Vin Diesel, he grabs out, it looked like 2 giant monkey wrenches or something.
He has 2 giant monkey wrenches, And Jason Statham just rips a piece of his car off.
I thought it looked to me like he grabbed like a windshield wiper and some other piece of metal, which would not have been very good to fight with.
The cheesiest yet greatest, them running towards each other. It's a horizontal shot where you're just seeing them from the side in slow motion, and just wielding their weapons as they jump towards each other. Yeah, just a leap with their weapons raised in the air, just ready for combat. And then we just get into another just crazy fight sequence between these two guys, which is capped off by...
Well...
They see the drone. There's another drone.
No, that's the helicopter at this point.
Okay, it's the helicopter at this point.
The one other bad guy.
Jaimin Hunsu is in there.
And he's now, like, he knows, I think, the game's up on him.
The game's up. He's going to kill Vin Diesel, and he doesn't care about Jason Statham at this point.
So
they say, like, oh, what's Shaw's down there? And he's like, well, he's useless to us now.
Yeah. So he shoots the missile.
Shoots a missile. This is why they're fighting. And we don't mean to just cut over this in, like, 10 seconds. It's an incredible cutting back and forth between other stuff. It is an incredible just lifting each other up, throwing them into the ground, pushing each other's bodies on top of cars.
This is rivaling.
It's an incredible fight.
And missile hits the parking garage.
Missile hits the parking garage and cracks it.
And cracks it.
Does damage.
Sends the crack right through where Jason Statham is standing.
And then the greatest thing. Now, mind you, okay, it is already damaged.
Yeah.
But a man should not be able to stomp his foot like a toddler and collapse the whole roof. He said something like, and then he has his Arnold one-liner like, you know the thing about street fights? The streets always win. And Jason Statham knows what's coming. He stomps his foot. Jason Statham falls to the floor.
Parking garage opens up.
It opens up. Jason Statham is now out.
Yeah.
He's done for the movie. We see him. We'll talk about that. We see him. But he's been bested.
Yeah.
But we still have the guys in the helicopter.
Yeah. And Vin Diesel has to escape.
And does Vin Diesel see that the guys in the helicopter are about to start opening fire on his family down on the street? He's got to take these guys out. He knows that they're never going to stop coming after him and his family.
Yeah, so
if you entertain us all with how he takes out this helicopter.
Okay, so he gets back in his car.
Gets back in his car. He's got grenades. He's got a bag full of grenades in his car.
And...
Because he does. He's got grenades. Who doesn't?
And drives. He gets lined up and drives.
Yeah, because a piece of the parking garage has buckled in and formed a ramp.
Yeah.
And he sees it, and he looks, and he sees it, and he looks.
So he drives his car in a move that's basically going to be repeated in...
Yes, it is.
Fast and the Furious 8.
It is. But this I thought was better.
Yeah.
Because you think he's going to sacrifice himself and just crash into the helicopter.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
Oh, no.
So he drives and kind of hits the helicopter.
He skids it.
Yeah.
Because the guy turns out of the way.
Yeah.
And you think oh, you missed.
And in the midst of all of this, he puts the backpack of explosives.
He hangs the bag of grenades from whatever that thing is.
The little landing.
The landing thing.
Yeah.
And then again falls...
Yeah.
5 stories head on into the street.
In a car.
In a car. And then the giant.
Oh, no, he dove out of the car. Sorry.
Does he dive out of the car? Either way, it's a drop, and it's on rubble. When Letty gets
to him, he's lying there out of the car.
She pulls him out. They pull him out. Paul Walker pulls him out of the car.
Gotcha.
So, Jaimin Hunsu's got a kind of a look on his face like, ha-ha! And nope, because then The Rock is down there with the Gatling gun, and you see where The Rock is looking, and
he realizes somehow
The Rock is looking at something.
Through Vin Diesel telekinesis that a bag of grenades is hanging from the helicopter. The Rock realizes?
Yeah. Well, The Rock just has perfect vision. The people's vision and hearing in these movies are amazing because these people are constantly, in all of these movies, you saw it in 8 and you've seen it in 7, you'll see it in all of them. These people are constantly just talking to each other in a volume. I mean, we're speaking loudly for the microphone to pick up, but just talking. They're just driving on the phone. Come on, Roman, hurry up. And they're not, I don't think they're mic'd up. They might be mic'd up, but again, they're constantly. So the vision, him seeing the grenades, to me is no more absurd of them being able to just have a full conversation while they're parachuting out of the car with Roman. So he sees it. Jaimin Hunsu sees that he sees something, does the action movie thing where he looks down for a split second. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
The Rock takes out a pistol, because at this point he's out of bullets at the Gatling gun. So he pulls out his sidearm, aims, fires, of course hits it. Helicopter explodes. Bad guys are done.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Dom is in trouble.
Down.
So Brian pulls him out. By that point, they've all kind of made their way. And in a weird way, and I hate to say this, because it was a tragedy that the man passed away. And we'll never know what scenes were planned before. But they got him for the scenes that they really needed to have him for. Yeah. They needed to have him for the whole movie. I'm not trying to be glib about it. But luckily, as far as a movie goes, a man lost his life. The scenes that they had Paul Walker for were for very important scenes, like this one at the end, when he's trying to do CPR, and she's like, just get away from him. And they've all regrouped at this point. No cops are there, but they've managed to all regroup at this point. Yeah. The Rock is there, Letty's there, Ramsey, Taj, Roman, and they're doing CPR, and she's like, leave him alone. And then...
Well, we find out that Letty remembers everything.
Letty remembers everything now. I guess we find out that they were married, which this is the first time that we as an audience also find out that they've been married. We don't know that at this point, even as an audience. And even though CPR didn't work, through the power of love.
Yeah. Well, love heals all wounds.
Love heals all wounds. Dom is brought back, and immediately it's a one-liner. She's like, I remember everything. I remember our wedding. I remember every minute. And then you just see a smile. It's about time. Vin Diesel has a great little smile, dude. He's got the smile of like a little kid, because he's got that little kid kind of mug. So he just has like, you can't see what I'm doing. Leif obviously can, but he's kind of got that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He gives that little smile on his face. It's about time. And everyone's like, yeah! And everyone's happy, and The Rock is happy and everything.
Everything's great.
And it's just great.
Yeah.
Which brings us to a very, very important part of the movie.
So then everything's done.
Everything is done. They got the God's Eye back. The villains have been taken care of. You see The Rock, he puts Jason Statham in prison. They have more tough guy banter about, like, when you get out of 15 feet of steel and 30 feet of concrete, my fist in a body bag will be waiting for you. And Jason Statham is, like, got, like, down the hallway with, like, 50 armed guards and all this crazy stuff.
Apparently they're just going to leave him in a cell.
They're just going to leave him, like,
and
shackled and barred and everything, just sitting in this cell. Just, like, this guy's a bad guy. And then we get to the scene where they're on the beach. Yeah. And I wanted to get your input on this. You see, and they're off in the distance, and they're...
it's playing with
and that's not Paul Walker at this point.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of give a little bit of a fact on that in a few minutes here. He's playing with the kid, and he's playing with Mia. And they're all sitting on the beach. It cuts back to them. And at this point, when they're filming this, Paul Walker has passed away. And again, this is a point when these actors are saying goodbye.
Yeah.
Not just to this character. They're saying goodbye to Paul Walker. They're saying goodbye maybe to this franchise, because at this point, are they going to make another one? They're not sure yet. Do you move forward without Paul Walker? Do you just... This could have very well... If they didn't do 8, this would have wrapped up everything just fine. I don't... it doesn't leave the door open for a sequel. Yeah, there's that Shaw thing or whatever. But they're talking on the beach, and Vin Diesel's talking about how this is his friend, and he goes to walk away, and she's like, you're not going to say goodbye. I never say goodbye to family. I think because I've seen more of these movies, and because that these two men, Vin Diesel and Paul Walker, were great friends and had worked together for 17 years. And then and then he drives away. Yeah. I got a little emotional, dude. I mean, I'm not going to say that I was crying.
No,
but
it's very...
if I was crying, I wouldn't be ashamed to say I was crying, but I'm not going to, like, hype it up and be like I was in tears.
Oh, no.
But, dude, I did get emotional and they start showing the flashbacks of them through the movies together while they're driving.
It was a very touching...
It was touching.
And I did like the fact that like, everyone was saying goodbye.
Yeah.
Except for Vin Diesel.
Yes.
Because... reading back sitting on this for a couple days, it's like, it makes perfect sense. I mean, nobody wants to say goodbye.
No.
And you know,
really,
there's that understanding.
In universe, you wouldn't say goodbye because in universe, that character's still alive.
Yeah.
So it's not like you would be like, have to have a big emotional goodbye. This is your sister's husband and the father of your nephew and soon-to-be niece. In universe, these people are going to see each other again.
Yeah, but no more adventures.
No more adventures. You're right. No more adventures, which was part of the real bond with this family.
And but even going past that, because this is like we're breaking fourth wall material here.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You know,
you don't think Vin Diesel, even as an actor, could have a scene where he says goodbye on the beach?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's not just the character. It's more of the fact that this is just one of these things where, like, this is flat out, like, emotional refusal to admit something.
Yeah.
But the thing is it's so honest at that point.
It is. More than you would ever, and that's the thing, like, people are like, oh, it's silly and cheese in these movies. And yeah, and no, because there's some real heart behind this family stuff. And I'm going to get to a point with that in a second. So he drives off, and then Paul Walker kind of pulls, and he's like, you think you could leave without saying goodbye? And it bookends the series perfectly where they have that one last little race.
Yeah.
And they play the song, which, dude, I'm not a fan of that genre of music, but it's been a long time since I've seen You, My Friend, or whatever song.
Yeah.
It's a great song. Especially when you know the context of what's going on.
Yeah.
And they start flashing back, like we said, through scenes and all this and about family. And you're just like, and then just beautifully.
Yeah, and then they drive.
Like I said in the last thing, I don't like to say better than it had you think it would be. But just a beautiful shot where the two cars separate.
Oh, yeah, they drive off.
On a fork in the road.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's extremely well done.
Oh, yeah.
So, the thing that I got from this, okay, and I did get emotional about it, is why I think now seeing this again and having recently in the past month or so seen Fast 8, I think they made a mistake with the plot of Vin Diesel being a villain. Because you could see the difference in family between this one and 8. And having already, and try to follow with me on this, having already lost Paul Walker, which again, you've seen a couple of them now, you see that it is a loss not having that character. Paul Walker is charismatic and great as an actor. Mm-hmm. The character of O'Brien O'Connor is so integral to everybody there.
Oh, yeah.
To not have him in the next movie, and then to also say, we're also going to take Vin Diesel out of the equation, I think was a bad move. I don't mind the plot line of 8 with Vin Diesel he's got to save his kid and he's got to go rogue. But I think, man, that's not to beat a dead horse, but you already lost Paul Walker and you lost the sense of family because of that. And then to already have in the next movie, now you're taking Vin Diesel out of the group. I just thought it was a little too much, but it's personal opinion.
Yeah.
So we're going to do our usual couple little segments. Jumping the sub. Jumping the sub, if you've listened before, is where at this point I think we've talked about the movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we've done a pretty good job of going through the whole movie. Jumping the sub is where Leif talks about his most absurd moment. So Leif, and then I kind of also chime in on what I think was, my most absurd moment. What was your jumping the sub moment for this movie?
Oh, man. This is the problem with these movies. There's so many you almost just pick randomly.
You almost pick one because you got to pick one. Not because you have to, but you can just pick any one, and it's suitable.
I would have to say, for me, it's a toss-up. It's basically either The Rock getting hurt.
Okay.
I mean, falling out of the building and just being like, whatever.
Yeah.
But also, I can't. To top it all off, I think was the fact that, like, when he breaks the cast with his arm.
That's mine.
It's not that for me.
Okay.
It's the fact that, like, in movie world, they realized this isn't believable. So that's,
All right.
they had him, that's when they had a shot of him taking the painkillers.
So somewhere at a studio level or at a script meeting or somewhere on set, they're like, well, we better have a little shot of him taking painkillers.
Yeah.
Like, we have to we don't need an establishing shot of them getting down from the buildings or a million other things.
Yeah.
But
he's tough, but he'll probably hurt.
They're not gonna buy this. I never thought about that, and that's why I love the fact that we're doing this. Because yes, that is brilliant, my friend. Because yes, my most absurd moment was him breaking out of the cast, but I never really put that connection together. That's like, oh yeah, everything in movies, every shot, every line of dialogue is a choice.
Yeah.
Like, from script stage to editing it, things don't just randomly end up in a movie. So yes, there was a choice for them to say, hey, we better show him taking some painkillers. I mean, he just broke out of a cast with a shattered arm.
We have to admit that he was hurt a little bit.
So yeah, that's great. So that's your most absurd moment. Mine was just him breaking out of the cast in general. I kind of tried to think of my favorite line. I don't know if you have a line that you remember, but mine definitely was, I don't have family, I have friends, or whatever. That was great. I thought that was a great line.
I do think, for me, notable is the Mr. Nobody's gut shot.
You like that?
Dying, whatever. And he's like, you gotta try that Belgian beer. That's good stuff.
Yeah, and I was happy to see Kurt Russell go, but Kurt Russell is just great.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can't go wrong with having some Kurt Russell. All right, so Fact of the Furious. This is what I'm going to do every segment, where I just give a little fact about this. And this one is kind of a bummer, but, we're a few years removed from this. Obviously, the tragic death of Paul Walker. I'm not going to get into that for anything other than production-wise. But movies are movies and life is life. This was a father. This was a guy who was huge into charity. Mm-hmm. This was a guy who, his friends loved him. His family loved him. So I'm not trying to make this about special effects or be cold about it, but the special effects thing, it is interesting, all right? So this started shooting in September of 2013 for a release date of summer of 2014. Okay, Paul Walker passes away on November 30th. They were breaking from production for Thanksgiving break. He was doing a charity event, and there was something that happened with the car. So he did die in a car accident, but I think it's one of those things that's, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter if you are suspicious of the way he died. But when you say that he died in a car accident, it's, especially being with these movies, people then immediately are going to think, did it happen on set? Was it a stunt? No, it was just a single car collision.
Yeah,
him and his friend were driving, and it's a very unfortunate thing. They were at a charity thing, just very unfortunate. So December, they announce production is delayed indefinitely. They're not going to cancel it, but they have to regroup, okay? A few weeks later, they announced that they're going to push the movie back to the summer of 2015. So they're going to push it back a full year, which these movies, the last one came out in 2013 anyway. So it would have been, to have one come out one a year would have been nuts to begin with. So then it gets pushed back a second year because these movies come out every other year. Filming resumes in April of 2014 when it was originally supposed to come out. And they finish in July of 2014 and it comes out in April 2015. Now my point for all that was, Peter Jackson's Weta, is that how you say it?
Oh, yeah.
Weta is going to do the digital effects. And at first they didn't know how they were going to do it, but they were able to bring on his brothers, Caleb and Cody, Paul Walker's brothers, and they were able to use him as body doubles. One, I guess they say, had a height and build almost exactly like Paul Walker, but facial-wise didn't look as much like him. The other one, I think, is a little shorter and a little more slight, but face-wise, obviously not exact, but they're brothers, closer than the other brother. So they were able to concentrate then on just modeling his face onto the two brothers and on another actor, which I guess would probably be a stunt actor. And that bus scene, I guess, was done by a stunt actor. I guess a guy really ran and jumped off that bus, but we can't go back to that.
We don't have the time.
We don't have the time to go back to that. But so they modeled on the face. Okay, his face was superimposed on the brothers for 350 visual effects shots. Okay, 260 used a computer-generated face, 90 used footage from outtakes or older footage. I believe the footage where Dom and him are talking about how, another touching scene was like, I've seen you do this, I've seen you jump out of an airplane, I've seen you shoot a plane down, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. The bravest thing I've ever seen you do is be good to my sister. I believe, and again, we're going to get things wrong on this, but I think that was cut from another movie. So there's a mix of outtakes from other movies, them using him in outtakes, because these movies come out 2 a year, so there's not a noticeable... It's not like the hillbilly kid who's aged 12 years in a minute. Using footage of his face that they cut out of outtakes, that they superimposed on his brother. So 90 effects were used from footage or outtakes from older footage. The only thing... It just... What they were forced to deal with on this movie, it turned out... And I'm not even just talking about, like, we'll get to our review part of it, but man, they were really able to pull it together. If you caught this on cable and knew nothing about the Fast and the Furious, knew nothing about Paul Walker, you wouldn't know that half of that was a body double or CGI.
You wouldn't.
The only CGI face was the one at the end where he turns and kind of smiles. That was just a little bit uncanny valley because the mouth didn't quite match up with the dialogue. But they needed to have that scene of them saying goodbye, so they had to do something. How strange, though, must it have been to try to sensitively approach the brothers and say, I mean, movies are movies, friends are friends, but this was a brother that passed away, and say, we want to resume production on the movie. We want to use Paul Walker. Would you be willing to... We're going to try... Because it's also, not to be crude, but it's also a business on a billion-dollar franchise that they've already invested a ton of money into filming this. So from a studio standpoint, from a business standpoint, I guess it did come very close to them pulling the plug, but they decided, no, he would want us... Vin Diesel said they decided that he would want us to go on and finish this movie. He loved the fans. These were really the only movies he was making at that point by his own choice, Paul Walker. But he loved the fans, he loved the franchise, he loved the family of the crew and the family that they used to make these movies. He would want them to finish.
Yeah.
I believe every word of that. I also am realistic enough to know that there were studio meetings where they said, we can't cancel this. We're going to make this movie. We gotta make this movie from a business standpoint. But yeah, sensitively to go to the brothers and say...
I mean, it had to just be tough all around.
It had to be tough all around. I mean, to come back to it, to be gone for almost half a year and come back and recoup, and they had to rewrite stuff. There was a part of me that was tempted to look up what shots of Paul Walker were real and what shots he filmed when he was alive and what shots were filmed with body doubles. And then I said, no, I don't want to know. In a weird way, I don't want to know and I don't need to know. They did such a good job on making it seamless that watching it in the future, to me, that's just Brian O'Connor. I don't want to know what scenes are Paul, because I am a fan of these movies and of that actor and that character. I don't want to know. I don't want to, every time I watch it, to have the magic taken away and be like, oh, that scene's his brother with a face double. Oh, that scene's an outtake. Oh, that scene's really him. No, I think that speaks to how good of a job that they did making this seamless. That I don't want to know. I don't want to know
and for me watching it, obviously I knew about all this. Well, not about all this, but about all that.
Yeah.
And there was that part of me that was always kind of want to withdraw from the movie and be like, well, is this one of those scenes?
Yeah.
And it was hard not to do that because of the curiosity of it all.
Sure. Just from a logistical standpoint, you're curious how they pulled it off.
But at the same time, I got more into the movie, into the action, into the plot, that into it, I just forgot all about that.
Sure.
And just paid attention to the movie because, and I can honestly say, like, it was like, I didn't think about it. Maybe, like, I thought about it 40 minutes in.
Yeah.
And then
I
didn't think about it until the end.
Sure.
Because it's like all of a sudden, boom, you're confronted with all of that. And
I just thought that they did a great job.
Yeah.
How they handled it, just from a marketing standpoint, and just from, the actual filming, just from the story-wise, how they wrote his character out. They didn't kill him off. They just said, no, he's gonna be with his family. It'll be interesting, of course, and as you've seen in the 8th one, they're going to have to allude to him. And there's been talk that maybe at some point they'll bring his character back to be played by one of his brothers. And if it's by one of his brothers, because it's going to be very hard to constantly have to have that scene where it's like, we can't bring Brian in. I mean, he's not only part of the family, but he's part of the family. Like, it's Dom's brother-in-law and the father to his nephew and niece. But I just thought it was beautifully done. And so we are going to do as we do. Our rating system, if you haven't listened to this before, is we thought that there was 4 wheels. Mm-hmm. So 4 stars. I think we both gave Fate of the Furious 3 wheels. Yeah. You've seen this now. I'm going to let you go first. Just real quick, just overall impression about how you liked it, didn't like it, how many wheels?
I liked it. It's hard because, obviously, it's hard to separate the, importance of the movie with the actual movie.
Okay.
But as far as the movie goes, it was a good one. It was... Can we do half wheels?
Sure.
Okay. I would say 3.5 wheels.
Yeah.
I'm not giving it 4 because I don't want to give it 4 just because it's like, oh...
Because you'd question whether or not you're giving it 4 for sentiment.
Yeah.
If none of anything happened outside and you just watched the movie as the movie, for me, no, it's probably not a 4-wheel. Yeah. It is one of my favorite ones. I mean, the set pieces are great, and it is one of my ones because of the emotion that goes into it. You can't separate it. It's just part of the fabric of the movie. It bleeds into every part of the movie. It becomes one. The tragedy that happened and the outcome of it becomes one with the movie itself, to where it is part of the fabric of the movie.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to just take it on that level and not be able to say that, it's 4 wheels, because I would say it's 3.5 wheels. I really enjoyed this one, just from start to finish.
Well, and
it was just it had more of a levity to it. The 8th one was, and especially even in comparison to this one, even though this one had so much tragedy happening in the background, it still had a levity. The 8th one was just, in retrospect, was just so dark and brooding. Which artistically, is that because of what happened?
I think it could represent the chaos that's going on.
Okay.
But yeah,
Is it a life imitates art thing where, this tragedy happened during 7, and now this is the 8th one, and we're all in kind of a brooding mood, and things are sad, and this is going to be... Do you think there's any merit to that, or no?
I mean, it could be. I mean, it could be the fact that, maybe... And this is just my, speculation in cytology here, but, maybe the, I have to go be evil Vin Diesel thing is, this whole... chaos within the psyche.
Yeah.
But and the fallout from the fact that now we have to deal with one, in the movie, one less member of the family because they're doing their thing.
Just, I mean, one of the...
And then in real life as well. So it is but at the same time, a lot of that didn't come across just by me seeing the movie itself.
That's true.
But
and you're going to get more connection to it. It'll be interesting to see how your opinions change as you see more of these. But yes, you give it 3.5 wheels. I would give it 3.5 wheels. It's right up there for me in the franchise. Great set pieces, the great family dynamic, a great villain who obviously becomes a hero in the next movie. Just how they handled the whole situation. I love this one.
I'll interject. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's fine.
But, one of the things that we talked about, the cast breaking a bunch, the absurd parts in the movie fit perfectly for me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even though they were crazy, like we say jump the sub.
Yeah. Because
it was so out of the ordinary, I think. But,
Yeah, you're right. The absurd parts in this fit better into the structure of the movie. Whereas, as much as I loved it, the Jason Statham rescuing the baby was just a segue into another comedy movie that you were watching for 5 minutes that you loved. But that didn't quite fit because the rest of the movie was so dark. So yeah, you're right. The absurd moments fit perfectly well into the into the mix that was this amazing movie.
That.
Oh, that's fine. This amazing movie, Furious 7, which is obviously a nod to the Magnificent Seven. I just thought that this one was great. Seeing 8 and seeing this, does your anticipation rise even more for seeing more of these things? Like, are you like, man, I want to watch 6 now? Or is it like, yeah, I'll watch 6?
I do. I mean, I'm a lot less clueless about what's going on.
Okay.
So now, the characters aren't like, okay, well, here's the one guy and here's the other guy. So yeah, no, I am looking
and I hope we haven't done a disservice by having you watch these backwards, but there's no going back now.
I am Letty, regaining my memory.
I love it. So, that's going to be close to it. Next week, I think we will be talking to you guys again. I think we'll probably do more of a kind of a fun episode. What I was planning on doing was kind of going over some Vin Diesel stuff.
Okay.
I think I'm going to, if you're down for it, I'm going to come up with 5, 6, 7 synopsises of movies.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are going to be actual Vin Diesel movies, and some of them are going to be made up.
And
you're going to have to guess whether or not it's a real one or not, because you're not that familiar with his filmography.
No.
So I think that would be fun. And then I think, guys, the week after that, we will watch and review the classic extreme sports spy Vin Diesel movie, Triple X. Have you heard of this?
I know the name. That's all I know.
You know what? On the only other thing you need to know that's going to be music to your ears is it is now streaming free on Netflix.
Awesome.
So it's going to be a very easy movie. So yeah, so next week we're going to play the game where Leif guesses whether or not it's a real Vin Diesel movie. The week after that we'll watch Triple X, and then I think the week after that we'll do Fast and the Furious 6.
Get back to 6, okay.
So that's we'll kind of break these out so we can kind of have some space in between them. Leif, as always, why don't you tell the good folks who are listening where they can find us?
Okay, we are on the YouTube,
yes,
the Twitter, the Facebook, and the iTunes, all under Fastback Podcast.
All under Fastback Podcast. And we would, again, as we start to gain, and we're gaining a sliver of listeners every week, which we appreciate. If you've listened to 2 or 3 of these and you're coming back, that's great. Comment. We don't care if you comment because we're trying to jack up YouTube stats or anything like that. That's not why we're doing this. We literally just want comment for just critiques.
Oh, yeah.
For things like that. And we would love it if someone sends us some questions. We're not going to do one today. It would be great to have a little segment where we have a listener question in here. Mm-hmm. Or just drop us a line and say, hey, guys, I'm listening.
Our email, fastbackpodcast@gmail.com.
Fastbackpodcast@gmail.com. We hope to hear from you. We look forward to speaking to you guys again next week. We're going to possibly have a few other things coming up on the YouTube channel, all related to the channel. It's a little too soon to talk about. Things that will be related to the channel, but also separate little stuff that we might drop.
Fun little segues.
Fun little segues that we might drop once or twice a week or once every 2 weeks. So keep an eye out for those. And if you're not listening to us on our YouTube channel, those things will be, it sounds silly to say, but they'll be exclusive to our YouTube channel. Yeah. So check up for those things. We'll talk, I think we're going to talk a lot more in detail about that at next week's episode. We'll talk about what we're going to be doing with those. We have some things to talk about. But Furious 7, great. We're 2 movies in. Beautiful. We're going to be getting news soon about the next one because, believe it or not, the next one comes out in less than a year and a half. So we'll look forward to sharing all that with you. Leif, it's been a pleasure.
Justin, good talking.
All right, guys, stay furious. We'll talk to you next week.